grab your drink and sit down. Listen to the podcast of the strange, the old, the pagan, and the Christian overcoming evil. This is the Grizzly Files podcast.
Alright, welcome back. It's that time again. My wife has broken out the wine and stuffed me full of brownies and said it's time to talk about the things on the podcast of the creepy things. Welcome to the Grizzly Podcast. No, I'm not drunk. You're drunk. My wife wishes she was drunk so she doesn't have to hear all this. Anyway.
Just drinking there.
Don't worry, we won't talk about the giant spiders today. I'm not laughing at my wife's expense. You are. But.
Big butt.
Little butts.
All the butts.
Booty. Hairy butt. Okay. Moving on from the butt segues.
Just butt on that way.
You guys remember from our last episode on the podcast. Wait, let me check my notes here. Wait a minute. Before we do that, wife, what are we drinking?
Stella Rosa.
Oh.
The white label.
Oh, the same one. My
the
bad.
Same one as last time.
Duh.
Though I've had several different types of wine since the last podcast.
I tried blueberry wine for the first time. I highly recommend it. My wife hated it. It's fascinating. For some reason, she seems to like all the wines meant for steak and salty things, and I like all the sweet stuff.
You're just a sweetie.
It was the most demasculating thing you've said on a recording in a long time. It's kind of odd, because usually it's the other way around. Usually I'm all about the hamburgers and the steaks.
You're just salty.
And you like the sweets.
Mm-hmm.
Except for wine, we are the opposite.
Isn't that funny?
You know what else likes red meat? I assume. Oh, really? You guys can't see your face, but she just gave me the ow, a cat! She got me pretty good that time.
No, I didn't give you that look.
You didn't, no, you didn't try to attack my balls, but my hand was in the way. Yes, Gato is here as well. O'Neill
I'm not even near you.
You're in range. Don't talk this way.
I'm not even gonna go there.
Anyway. Oh man, I've messed up the pattern really bad.
Yeah, we don't talk about such things.
Pretty sure I've snuck ball
what
talks
stays
into
in
the
bedroom,
last.
What happens?
Huh. Hey, I was gonna say that I snuck talking about balls in at least once every episode.
I feel like that's just something you just are determined to do in every...
Just to annoy you personally, yes. And since I edit it, you can't get rid of it. You're gonna have to learn to edit if you want to stop it.
Well, it's kind of hard to get the computer when you're there.
Editing?
Yeah. I might accidentally delete the whole thing.
Oh no! Wife is blackmailing me.
Oh, blackmailing. When just take that line from every podcast about balls and just make a loop around it.
That would be me blackmailing you, wife.
Oh yeah.
I'd laugh. Anyway.
This is reverse blackmailing. I want to stay with whitemailing.
Dang it. We were so focused last time. This time, I'm all over the place again. But you know what? Bear with us, folks. We're going to get to the point. If you remember in our
You said bear with.
Oh, God. No. Why making bear noises? But, if you remember what we talked about in the last episode, I promised you guys that I would get into Dogman stuff today because we kind of brought that up in the werewolf, maybe hellhound story.
And
maybe
I promised you guys that I would be drinking more wine.
Yes, my wife has promised to be a drunk person.
I'm not getting drunk. There's a difference.
Yeah, she has promised to be tipsy No, she doesn't need alcohol to be tipsy, to be honest. She's...
I'm just tipsy around you no matter what.
No, I think that's a compliment. But I feel like I need to make good on that promise. You'll have to bear with me a little bit on this episode. I'm having a really busy day, job interviews, all kinds of things happening, so I didn't have as much time to research as I wanted, but we gotta get the recording done today, so we're gonna power through. So let's start with when you hear the word Dogman on the internets and the interwebs, in the worldy worlds, what it usually means. So
I drink more wine.
Drink more. Most of you have heard of Bigfoot, it's almost for sure. But there's another cryptid out there that they refer to as Dogman. You may think it's a dumb name. I don't really disagree. It is what it is. But it does kind of describe what we're talking about.
That's pretty straightforward.
It's a hairy werewolf looking thing. But it's not a werewolf. I know. Some people's going to say the classic line, if it looks like a duck, it talks like a duck, and it sounds like a duck, well, it's a duck. Well, in this case, it looks like a werewolf, it sounds like a werewolf, but it ain't a werewolf, so shut up. Anyway, you may wonder if people get passionate about this. They do. It's kind of funny, actually. I mean, obviously, the funny part about it is we wouldn't know. Like, even if you saw one, would you know the difference between a werewolf and a dogman? I don't know. So we don't know. But the concept is, unlike a werewolf, this is an actual animal like Bigfoot. Well, you know what I think Bigfoot is, but like it, right? As in, this wolf humanish shape is its permanent shape. Even if it's a shapeshifter, this is what it likes to turn back into, kind of a thing. So, that's the big O difference. What are you doing? My wife is psyching me out. Now,
I'm enjoying my glass of wine, okay? Continue on. I'm doing my job.
Mm-hmm. And I brought up that there's a lot of variations of this, lots of different stories.
It's like there's a lot of variations of wine.
Mm-hmm. There's rumors about hyena-headed ones. There's rumors of stuff that rather than looking like a werewolf, with the hawk legs, which you might not know, that's when the knees like a dog, right?
Oh my goodness, okay.
They're backwards compared to a human. Right. Why? Right. Some of them have that. There's rumors that there's some that have like a Bigfoot body, so they have like kind of a big old monkey man shape, but they have the head of a wolf. I'm just sharing what I've heard. I don't know about all of it per se. There is an ample amount of sightings. Most sites will try to tell you that after the Bray Road incidences and the Michigan stuff, that it's dried up and it's not there. No, there's been sightings all over the place for a long time. The big one is even more than Bigfoot. Like, for example, a lot of people can accept the idea that there's a big old monkey in the woods, right? And that's usually where most people go with Bigfoot the first time they spot it. Like, it's a big old monkey. It must be some kind of gorilla thing.
Woo-wee. Your second cousin.
It's a missing link. Don't ask me why we didn't find no skeletons, but it's a missing link, yo. And then there's generally is a progression on, and this depends on how how honest they are with themselves and the stories they pick up and the research they do. I'm gonna drink that one. Where Bigfoot researchers tend to get to the point where they start realizing that they're a more spiritual kind of thing. First of all, the DNA evidence, we brought that up briefly. Lots of human DNA, kind of weird, kind of freaky. Yes, Nephilim, all of that. We'll get into that more with Dogman as well. But there is, you might think that there's not a lot of precedence for this in a lot of places. What did you hear? Everyone, we all want to know what wife heard.
It's horrible.
It's a whore. Oh no, it's a whore. Oh gosh.
It's horrible. It's always doggy style. Sorry.
Oh my god. I did not think you would go there, but she did. Oh, no. Silent laugh. We're gonna lose her for a little while.
Oh my gosh. Make sure your pants what's up.
Gentlemen, this is why you don't let your woman drink too much alcohol. She hasn't drinking too much alcohol. This is how she is.
What's funny is that I made jokes like those before, but
Not on a recording. I was gonna put it.
oh man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, steamy. Had to put the glasses down.
I'm actually crying a little.
Ew, poor
Okay.
wife. Okay. Oh my gosh. Alright, so that's segue aside. When when I mean precedents, there's a lot more stories out there than just the classic European werewolf, right? Easy, wife. Come on back to us.
I'm right here.
Good. For example, gosh, I'm losing her, guys. Something's got to power through till she calms down. But if you think about Egypt, for example, Anubis always had the head of a dog. Now, there's also stories throughout Europe and other places about a race of dog-headed men, but these stories tend to think of them as more civilized, kind of like the dogs playing poker. If that makes any sense. Poker, I don't even know her, but the funny thing also with this is the idea of were creatures or half human, half animal creatures is also prevalent pretty much in there are bags underneath my feet. They're pretty
thought it was
much
the cat.
what is this unique studio like landmine of crinkling paper underneath like where you're gonna step?
It's for sound effects.
No, let's see how much they enjoy it. Oh, I hate it already. Anyway. And for example, Hawaii has essentially the concept of were sharks or shark men. That's fun.
Furry fish?
No,
Okay.
they're not hairy, but they're depending on the story you look at, they will look like humans till they turn into sharks. They'll lure people into the water, then turn into a shark and eat them, kind of thing. Sometimes the story goes they turn into a full shark that's just really big. Other stories are they're kind of half human, half shark, so they'll have like fins and stuff that move fast, but they'll have legs that chase you on land.
Yeah,
Fun
nice.
stuff. India, all that stuff. Were tigers, or at least tiger-like men. In the Bible, actually, there was called the lion-headed men of Moab. Now, if you're a certain theologian type, you're probably like squirming in your chair going, actually, they were just wearing lion-headed helmets. No, they weren't. Okay? They weren't. That's not what they said. They said lion-headed, not they wore the helmets of lions in the shape of lions. And if you're wondering, you can read it. It's involved in King David's story, and it makes it very clear that there's something not normal about these guys, because this is involving David's mighty men, and it goes through these stories about how like dozens of you read the story of David's mighty men, and it's like, oh yes, and this random guy you've never heard of, he stood and fought for so long that he killed 500 Philistines all by himself, and he fought so long that his sword froze to his hand and survived. That kind of guy. Are the stories probably exaggerated? And you know what? I know theologians and other would say yes. I disagree. I'm just gonna say they are accurate. Maybe maybe there's a little bit of fish story involved where they're 500, maybe there's only 200. I don't know. But I tend to just go with the sources on that one. Just because we'll see if I'm wrong. So, that's a segue. Hello. I need
segue.
I need a segue so we can both wave at it in these moments. This stupid
That's what
joke.
the point is for.
I need a little segue for Elgato. I'll just put him on it and he can spin in circles. He's asleep.
He's all curled up.
He's like, yes, speak about my brethren, the cat-headed men. So, yep. So I say all that to establish that these ideas have been with man for a very long time. Like ever since we started writing things down and making pictures on the walls, we've been saying, "Yo, there's these freaky dog-headed, lion-headed, freaky tiger-headed, shark-headed
Whatever
freaks.
headed thing.
They have weird heads." Now, maybe some people will say, "Oh, I've never found any bodies." Well, Mister, you probably believe in evolution, and I would counter with that means you literally believe in millions of missing link bodies that have never been discovered, despite the fact that we have far older skeletons and fossils of those species. So, according to you, millions of species can just disappear, or sorry, not species, but members of those species groups can just disappear, and we can have no records of them. So maybe you want to answer that one before you say that I'm being crazy when I say.
And I think I need a stronger line for this topic.
I'm just pointing that out for people, right? There are other reasons, cover-ups, people not knowing what to do with the bodies. There's also fun stories about people. At least one story I've heard of where a guy poisons a Dogman, tries to keep a piece of it as a trophy, and basically his land gets cursed till he gets rid of it.
That was dumb.
You say, "I believe it curses you." Believe what you will, but let me put it this way: if someone actually produced a corpse of a bipedal wolf-like entity, being, animal thing that's dead, would you really think it was real, or would the first thing you'd say is it's fake? And the answer is you'd say it's fake. And as to why why I think a lot of this gets covered up, well, it's pretty simple when we get. I stop it, I think, when I wonder where everybody is before I say all those reasons. Let me put it this way. Because I think they're connected to the spiritual things, the Nephilim and all that, their existence is covered up because, well, quite frankly, if you found out that there was a bunch of physicalized demon babies out there in the woods, you would start to go, well, hang on, if there's demons, then there must be angels and God. Because what are the demons? And we've already described Nephilim being the sons of rebellious daddies who don't want to serve God anymore.
Bad daddy.
Bad. Now, I want to also clarify that there's a couple other options here. So when we talk about Dogman, I'm all over the place, but there's like 3 main options for the stuff I've listened to that I agree with when we're dealing with an entity. Right. So, first one, well, we'll say 4, right? A, maybe it actually is a werewolf. You don't know that, I don't know that. We call it a Dogman. Vice versa, maybe you see a Dogman, but you've never heard of it before and you think it's a werewolf. These things have been known to be quite smart when people interact with them, so that's something to think about.
It's quite dumb to me.
Oh, and quick, before I move on, part of the reason why I think a lot of these corpses just kind of get whisked away and people don't talk about them is because there are ample stories and historical like documentation and stuff you can bring up where bodies have been either destroyed, scared away. The people who've had them threatened with jail time. See, this is sometimes a problem when I get in the flow. I need to include more links and notes. But essentially, Othello, right? He goes out in the woods, finds like 3 weird monkey-looking dudes, Bigfoot type things, and one attacks him. He gets a lucky shot off and kills it. Eventually, he comes back to that spot and recovers the body of the monkey bear who tried to kill him, and he puts it on he embalms it, and he preserves it in some way. I forget which way it is, and he puts it on display in one of those freak shows because this was a while ago. It's so realistic that he's threatened by the government with murder charges. And
Excuse me.
I think I brought this up in a... Man, pour that wine. Finish off that bottle. And I think did I already bring this up in a previous episode? I've only had 3 and I'm already...
About what?
About the dude who was threatened with murder charges, so he got rid of the body.
You didn't do that story. No.
Oh, no, okay.
Not on the podcast.
See, sometimes I forget what I tell my wife in private.
And this is why I'm careful how you say that.
Little dead monkey man, eh? Hey? So, and in this instance, right, the body is inspected by professionals, and they're really impressed by it. And they mention it and blah, blah, blah. And it becomes a big deal. And then the government, the local police force, they start threatening to bring the guy in on murder charges because it's so realistic and it's so monkey man humanish, like it must be human in something, right?
Wine burp.
And so, after those charges, the body disappears for a while. Isn't that interesting? You threaten to charge a man with murder and the body disappears. Huh. What's going to happen? And then a new body's produced. The same, he goes on tour again. The same experts who saw the previous body look at it and say, this is a different specimen and it's clearly fake. And everyone agrees. The guy doesn't go to jail and he gets rid of the body and he moves on. He keeps whatever cash he got from the freak show. That is a classic example of what happens when you actually have physical evidence. You literally get threatened with murder charges. But I'll move on. I won't say that can happen every time, but it can happen enough. Plus, you have to also remember, like, let's say you're a Native American tribe out in the woods. You think these monsters' bodies are cursed, and maybe they've even messed with you before. You're not going to... Also, just like with the lion-headed men of Moab, these things have been known to want the bodies of their fallen kind, if that makes any sense. You kill one, and if they're in some kind of pack, they tend to show up for the body, which is kind of crazy and weird. Don't ask me what's going on.
I don't want to know.
I don't know either, but yeah, this is a common theme.
That's probably good to not know.
And it's interesting that you see this theme in the Bible with the creatures with heads of animals and all the rest, that they knew these things were going to come for the bodies, and they had to get rid of the bodies or they were going to attack all of them. Right? So, I'm not, I could hint at them being smart enough to hide the bodies. It's probably something more spiritual that we don't understand, but we'll get into the options. So the 4 options that we'll talk about. Right, we already talked about were creatures. I've heard enough stories to hint that something like that could happen. The next one is a purely spiritual entity. So let's say our Nephilim bad guys have messed with the DNA with humans, have mixed with wolves and all the rest, and they've created a Anubis-looking freak show to freak out all the humans and trick them into doing what they want and all the rest. And it dies, but because it has angel DNA in it, and the spark of that fallen watcher's essence in it, because it is his son and whatever mixed in, it has more spiritual stuff, more spiritual wumbo jumbo. When it dies, its soul doesn't have anywhere to go. It can't go into heaven because it doesn't belong to God. Does that make sense, right? The Book of Enoch brings this up. If you're a full son of a fallen angel, you are technically a son of that fallen angel, that fallen watcher, and God doesn't claim you. This is I know I brought this up. Basically, the whole concept is these watchers came to Earth. At first, they were there to watch over humanity, but then they decided they wanted to take creation for themselves, and their method for doing it was creating their own children amongst man. I'm sure some of it was perversion too. Hey, chicks are hot, I get it. But I'm married to one. But another part of it was a strategy to create their own children that could supplant God's children and thus claim the earth for themselves, if that makes any sense. That's kind of the gist of the strategy and the plan of the Watchers, the angels that came down, the sons of God who mixed with the sons of man. Yes, I'll drink wine to that. Not that it's a good thing. Just drink the wine, wife says. I need you to stop talking for 5 seconds. Stop talking. That was loud. So,
Imagine how much longer that's gonna be on.
oh God. Oh God. Oh God.
Stop it.
Anyway, I'm not staring at my wife and figuring out what she's suddenly frustrated with. Okay, so right. So when they died, they had nowhere to go, and thus their spirits, whenever they take their demonic physical form, if they can produce one, looks like a freaky werewolf thing. This is how you actually get a lot of stories of these things popping up in cities. You're like, what is it? Yeah. A lot of stories of them haunting things, a lot of stories of possessions. I've heard stories, stories this, stories that, but basically like wolf-shaped totems, and it's really interesting. When you get into this topic, there's a strange amount of people who get so obsessed with it that they practically start worshiping these things. And you may think I'm crazy, but no. They get really wild. I remember the first time I was introduced to the Dogman myth, and this one, or concept, or legend, whatever you want to call it, and this one was, again, back to my childhood of Monster Quest. But even in there, right, Monster Quest visited this one freaky dude who saw it, and after he saw it, he got so obsessed with it that he started making puppets of the darn thing, and paintings, and these gruesome stuff. And he just constantly made a bunch of them, and they were creepy. All right. Now, I don't know how else to say it. You're worshiping something if you see it once, and your first thought is to constantly make engraved images of it, and to never stop. Yeah, it wasn't pleasant, and I remember this even to this day. I'm a 30-year-old man. I watched this when I was like 10.
You're 30-something else.
Oh yeah, I'm like 30. Hey guys, I'm even older than I thought. Who can understand where that's going, huh?
I have to remind you when your birthday is.
Yes, it's because I went bald when I was in my 20s, so it makes me feel older even back then.
I could actually say I remember when you had hair.
Hey, that's one for you guys, gents. I got my wife even when I was bald. You can do it too.
I think the last time I saw you with hair, you were in high school. No, wait, you were in college.
Oh,
you were just losing it.
I was starting to lose it then too. I remember. Oh man, I thought there was something really wrong with me, but it turns out it was just something in my family that no one bothered to tell me about.
Stress.
Probably that.
Something that triggers their stress genetic
hair
loss thing.
Yes, now I'm imagining bald Dogman, and it's not a pleasant thought.
That's just naked.
Yeah. Dogman. Naked Dogman. Yeah, it's like those naked cats, but big.
Oh, dude, good. They have that dog breed that's like.
Oh God.
Yeah, that hideous. Oh gosh.
I'd probably call that a chupacabra, to be honest. No, the original chupacabra from Puerto Rico looked like a weird little hopping alien thing with spikes.
No, thank you.
Good times.
No, not good times.
No, not good times. No bueno. Oh, in that whole thing, it's another
segue,
another podcast, but like the entire island of Puerto Rico got to the point where like mayors and stuff are calling out entire militias to go hunt for the thing. Also, funny thing, there's something like 17 biolabs in Puerto Rico. They might not still be there, but during this time there was like 17.
One of them escaped or something.
Right, that's a fun theory I heard online, that this thing, the chupacabra, the original one, was an escaped lab experiment, or they let it go on purpose to see how it would react and people would react to it. Which you may say, well, that seems kind of pointless. No, not unless you would go to the spiritual side and things like these are popping off more because evil is starting to flex its muscles in the land. More people are becoming evil. Like, think about this, right?
Right.
I brought this up in the Sunday school lessons, I think, but remember how...
That is not why we got kicked out, I promise.
But And- Don't ask. Sometimes words in my mind come out as weird grunts. Cavemen understand me, but
It's called being constipated, dude.
whoa, it's coming out of my mouth, not the other end. Verbal diarrhea, at least. Let's be honest.
It's just game of spewing.
I mean, like, shouldn't I be choking if we were comparing it to being stopped up?
Choking has a different sound.
Exactly. So, spewing. You know what?
Spewing has a
This
different
analogy
sound.
is disgusting. Like, I'm disgusted for the people who had to hear it. But
Choking would be a different.
again, I'm touching on pod things I should leave for future podcasts. Pod de capo. Okay, but I'd like to grab a bunch of different things. We'll do a more concentrated on it. I won't say it's the next one because sometimes I really have to feel like talking like about something. It's a muse thing. I'm so pinky up. I'm gonna grab my wine glass.
It's empty.
Shut up! It was about the wine glass. Make me sound like a wino. Whining. So.
This is how it goes.
Yep. If you go back to the Watchers, right, what do they want? They wanted to take the land. Well, naturally, something, land or people that have given themselves over to evil are going to have less protection from evil from God. That's just kind of how it works. Land in rebellion to God is going to feel the effects. So, with the United States in particular, but a lot of the Western world becoming more and more atheist and less godly, and also less and less likely to take up arms and chase weird monkey werewolf things in the woods. I miss that America. There used to be an America where stuff like this would show its ugly head and everyone would grab a shotgun and chase it into the woods. It was great. Awesome.
My uncle's the one that calls them rednecks.
It's like I'd rather have an army of rednecks on my side than against me, but
I'm sorry, that's a little bit personal. I'm bringing it here. I'm sorry.
So personal.
I know.
God. Poop stories. Not personal at all, though, apparently. She just smiled at me. You guys can't see it. She thinks she's
the
cute.
First time
We're not
I
talking
called
about
you.
poop stories.
I wasn't pooping though. It was something.
See, this is how you
That sounds
know
horrible.
that my wife is really uncomfortable with the conversation. She's not ready. She's trying to delay me from talking about it as hard as she can. But I won't be delayed because I know why you're here, for poop stories. I mean, for werewolf. I don't know why.
Bathroom
Why
stories.
are you here? Are you high?
Have you asked yourself that question lately? Like, why am I
Are
here
you
listening
really
to
high?
these idiots talk? Not like we're idiots or anything.
My
but...
wife just called me an idiot. So, right.
In the most endearing way possible.
Speaking of idiots, so the Watchers, right? Right. United States Western worlds have become more atheist, less spiritual defense, more willingness to dabble in biological nonsense as well. Ooh.
That's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Thus, an increase in evil, and evil being able to manifest and show itself in physical forms. Yeah? Seems pretty obvious to me. The things holding that kind of stuff back have to step back because people aren't being godly around them and aren't asking for their protection, and thus the evil can take root. More and more, they don't have to hide, so they kind of flex their muscles. It's interesting. I'm going to pick things up from a lot of different podcasts that I have planned in my head. But, for example, a very famous Satanist, cultist, whatever, known as Aleister Crowley. I bring this story up a lot.
I like him.
Talks about how he communed with a freaky demon dude one time, and the demon was taking physical form. And he drew a picture of it. And the demon told him that right now you call me demon and not my kind demons, but will be called something else in the near future. And what Aleister Crowley drew, when he drew what the thing looked like essentially an alien gray with a funky suit on.
Ew.
So, I highlight to you, and you say, well, what are we talking about? if you are a spiritual cultist and you have access to lots of government funds and lots of, shall we say, Epstein type situations, and you want to prepare people and desensitize them to freaky things like monkey men in the woods and dog creatures and aliens, you want to slowly introduce it to them and slowly introduce the idea that people are crazy and stupid and seeing this stupid stuff, so that your first gut reaction is, oh, that didn't happen, that didn't exist, that guy's lying, there's no proof, blah 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 blah. Like, it's funny, they've literally said, oh look, we have actual aliens. So I don't, again, what did I just say? Aleister Crowley said demons are essentially aliens, demons are the same thing, blah blah blah. They're just different manifestations of this stuff. And so from that perspective, I think they very much have proof of these things being around. I very much do think they got technology from them, because that's what the Watchers did back in the day too. They did, like, they gave out knowledge in exchange for, like, loyalty and worship and stuff, and, you know, wives and so on. So I very much believe that that stuff is happening today. But to continue the Western world down the atheist route, they had to come up with something better than, ooh, we're gods touching down. What are they? No, we're aliens. Ooh. Right? Yeah. So, oh man, we got off into the weeds. I'll bring things back in. But that was a long way of saying that they'll release things, and they have been releasing things early to desensitize people to their presence. To the point now, right, where they can literally show all this evidence saying that this stuff exists, and then people don't care. And people will still call other people crazy for seeing stuff. Right? You know,
whether... Or they'll say something like, boomers like to say this line, ooh, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, as they're watching Fox News.
Oh, or CNN or anything else for that matter. It's like, you know, if they can lie online, they can lie on your news show too. There's a lot of lying. But you may think, oh, what does this have to do with categories again? Well, again, we come back to our 4 different types of dogman. We have possibly werewolf, that's not a dogman at all. We have, which is like a human taking on the form of a weird half dog, half man creature. Funny enough, there is a few tribes up in Michigan that have stories about skinwalkers, and as I understand it, a concept that a skinwalker who sucks at his craft bad enough or messes up could get stuck in that in-between stage from changing into a wolf, or changing back from a wolf into a man, and get stuck in that, excuse me, and get stuck in that form, and that's what a dogman is. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. But I would argue that the skinwalkers probably wouldn't advertise that kind of thing. And again, we go back to my rules and other podcasts that I brought up, that men tend to make stories about creatures that aren't that true because they don't know the truth, but they want to explain what they're meeting and what they're seeing and why it's there. So the story is often complete bull, but the monster itself is real. It's complicated. So, third one, we had spiritual and werewolf. The third one is a physical manifestation animal thing that's there permanently. Like Bigfoot, needs to eat, might have migration patterns. Yes, a wife, it probably mates with doggy style and has smaller versions of itself.
I don't know why.
No, that's actually
it was hilarious.
It made you be and now you made me have to say it in a funny way. Yeah.
Well, you can't say missionary style because that's not how you get permission.
Lord have mercy. So, with that one again, I still think there's a spiritual element to those, right? Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just like with the Bigfoots, just like with giants, but just like with giants, Bigfoots, and everything else, though they might have increased abilities or whatever, they are very much physical and have to follow the laws of the physical world. You laughing at what you're looking at or what I
Well,
said?
you just said. I'm sorry.
Oh gosh. So okay, and now that one I would argue then is a descendant of like old world stuff. Survivors from the flood or right after the flood or whatever. Now, you may say, well, what's this fourth one then? The fourth option is straight up government or private gene splicing experiments that are either released or escape and are made assets or just whatever you will. Now, assets. Yes. And I don't, oh, that's funny. But yeah. And the funny thing about that one, right, is there's a lot of stories about dogmen doing oddly human things that you wouldn't expect. Like doggy style. You're not going to believe it, but yes, I have actually heard stories like that. That one I think is fake, but
You know
yes,
what?
I heard a story like that.
No.
Yep. I think that one's fake, but yes.
It better be fake. Oh gosh.
Look,
What have I started?
they discovered baby ones, so I assume something had to get diggity.
I'm so sorry.
What have you done?
I'm so sorry, everybody who thought of me as a proper woman.
Anyway. So.
But again, I am Kozak.
Yes, and it is late, so we're probably brain fried right now. Gosh, I said late and then I wanted to yawn. Stop it! Anyway.
Get some milk.
Just like how we could argue. Yeah, where was I? Oh, yeah. So.
I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. The things I was mostly referring to, though, are smiling like a human. That's a big one. A lot of them smile.
Wasn't there something on, like, whatever bills of something or other they mentioned in the...
Yeah, we're getting to that.
Oh, okay. You're bringing it up. Okay.
Wife is jumping ahead again.
I just pay attention to what you say. That's all.
Right.
I pay attention. Even though sometimes it doesn't seem like I do.
Oh.
You okay?
Yes. By the way, everyone, make sure I recommend that you do some prayer before you listen to too much of this stuff, especially at night. Okay? You may think it's all humble jumbo, wumbo humpto. That's fine. But for all you who know better, prepare yourself spiritually. Don't listen to too much of it at the same time.
Mm.
You just invite things. You know, the classic line, oh, you're looking to the abyss might look back and then get bitch slapped by Christ. Just saying. Remember your tools. Jesus Christ is Lord. Use that in prayer. Drive things out. Bless your home. All the rest. But, yeah. These things, a big prevalence, even going back way early, is things like being able to smile like a human. In rare instances, some form of verbal communication that sounds really weird. In some cases, supposed like mind link, like communicating through the mind.
Ugh.
Don't know about that one. The point is doing oddly human stuff while still being very animalistic. And what's weird, and my wife was bringing up, is there was actually not too long ago. Actually, I think it's a while now. It might be a couple years. Can't remember. But the U.S. Congress failed to pass a law that would specifically demand that chimeras, which is the new term for a genetic spliced creature, like that mouse that they made with a human ear on its back and all the rest. There's also other things like they manipulated some types of fish way back in the day during the Cold War to make them more resilient and all this other stuff. They experimented with dolphins to try to get rid of mines, all kind of crazy stuff. But, so those are referred to as chimeras. If you're adding aspects of different animals or even human DNA with animals, they're referred to as chimeras, which is the original Greek myth of the chimera. Fun stuff. Melts the lion multi-headed thing with a lead-tipped spear. Good times. Yeah. That was crafty. If you don't know the story of the Chimera, I forget which Greek hero it was, but it was a freaky animal with multiple heads and multiple parts of different bodies, and it was completely immune to damage. So what the hero did, and it breathed fire. So what the hero did was get a soft lead tipped spear, and when it went to fry him, he put the spear inside its mouth, and it choked to death on the lead spear as the lead melted. Smart. Anyway, they name it after chimeras for obvious reasons, and in the bill it said some specific things that should be illegal, and one of them was the ability to make a chimera, so an animal with whatever various animal DNA and human DNA spliced in, to make it able to smile like a human. It specifically said to make that illegal. Now, you got to understand with laws, there's a couple different types of laws. There's the laws that they make that are very, very vague, and that's designed so that, they don't know what's going to kind of fall under its purview, so they make the wording really vague so that they can adapt the law to stop or start or whatever they want it to do, right? They don't know what's going to happen in the future, so they make a vague law that they can adapt to what they want it to be. The other kind of law is super specific, and that kind of law, like trying to make a law saying you can't make a chimera that can smile like a human, is reacting to something that's already happened, and they want it to stop. I.e., waterboarding needs to stop, so we want a bill that's passed no waterboarding, right? Just like that. On the flip side, if they're trying to stop all like torture in general, right, what the law would be any form of torture or intended harm to gain whatever knowledge, blah, 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 right? It'd be vague like that. But if they're trying to get rid of a specific torture, i.e. waterboarding, they're going to say, no one in the military personnel can do such and such waterboarding for such and such reason. Very specific. So, with this law, using the specific kind, we can almost infer that chimeras that can smile like humans have already been made in labs. The politicians found out about it, freaked out, and said, you're going to stop that crap. And they weren't able to pass the bill. So technically, it's still legal.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of these stories about these things smiling go like 1930s, kind of old, even older. So, that's why in my opinion, these kinds of things, when you hear stories about them, or you find them on the internet, if it's a real story, there's plenty of hoaxes out there. It's a popular enough thing now that people are, making lies about it all the time. But those are the 4 options. Actually, it is a werewolf. It's a spiritual entity that's demonic in nature. It's an actual physical being, but has demonic ancestry, if you will. Or 4, it's demonic ancestry chimera. That's fairly recently made. Yeah. Supposedly, and that's why you have a bunch of weird variations of them. If you find people are actually doing research on this stuff, it makes sense. If they're experimenting and making a bunch of different stuff, why would they stick to only wolves? Why would they stick to only black wolves? They would experiment. They'd say, hey, can we put a wolf head on the top of a weird Bigfoot monkey body? Here we go. Can we put a hyena head on there? Let's give it a whirl. It's all this other crazy stuff. There's fox ones. Dumb.
No.
Yeah. Oh, and come to think of it, that's another one that goes back for the ages. Japan has all kinds of stories of basically human-like foxes, but sometimes that can take on different forms, right? The ones with
and
lots
this
of
is
tails.
why furries should be forbidden.
Shot in the face. Because they, whether they realize it or not, are
Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah.
kind of worshipping these things in the creepiest way possible. Woo!
You're not going to the doctor.
No. My
Okay.
voice wouldn't allow it right now anyway. I've been talking too much. Give me that water. I'm all out of wine.
So am I.
We didn't bring enough wine for this topic.
Well, there's the wine that you like.
So, yeah, that's true, but you don't like
Well,
it. I
yeah.
won't drink wine in front of
Tomorrow
you.
I'm gonna get use the rest of that gift card to get another bottle of wine, the kind of wine that I like.
Brutal.
Well, you get to finish off the other bottle.
Yes.
I tell you,
We're getting to the point that we're gonna have separate wine collections.
it just means that I'm gonna have to get those little wine rack things and just several selections. Ooh, wow! I need water.
Yes, you do.
I should shut up now.
Yeah. So, the funny thing about this, right,
It's
is
never too funny.
is I went through all of this and I haven't even gotten into like the origins of the Dogman name and all that. So I went through all that because I wanted to clarify.
Now you wait when I'm completely out.
Yep.
Your strategies.
I've outweighted her. The siege may commence.
Yes, you have outweighted me.
I have outweighed
More
you
ways
for a
than
long time. Anyway. Dude, she's like 100 pounds. If I ever not outweigh her, I'm dead. Like I'm dying. If I weigh 100 pounds, I am literally starving to death. Not metaphorically or
Well, I
any way.
just find it funny. Never mind. Well, I just find
It's funny.
when you got married, you were at 180.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was darn skinny. Imagine if I had lost 80 pounds.
I know.
Then I'd really look like I had some of those things you find on Reddit.
Oh,
Ooh.
stop it! No, don't you?
Don't you do it! Oh.
Well, yes, lose weight, but please don't look.
Ooh, another podcast I have to bring up. You know all those creepy Reddit stories?
No.
Are those all fake? Well, maybe. But as it turns out, and it's really hilarious because this story is getting covered up fast.
No.
They discovered that the most active area in the whole world that uses Reddit is a military base that houses a lot of military psyop stuff.
Gay psyop?
No, just psyops. It's like, you know,
That's probably
like electronic cyber warfare and all that stuff.
Oh, that's psyops.
That like CIA things and all that stuff. And it just so happens that Reddit's most addicted, as they call it, city is this base because it's such a big base. It's considered its own city. Right, you know, it has its own city name, and it's a military base. That is hilarious, because what does that say? What did I just bring up, right? How they will introduce these kinds of things into the population early before they start getting released in general to get people used to these ideas and concepts. And what better plausible deniability can you think of? Right, basically, someone says they saw something and no one will ever believe them. Then having a story written on the internet by supposedly a bunch of anonymous users all making a fake story, but you just have a few guys in your team of CIA operatives shaping the story as anonymous characters in the story.
Wow.
Right? As anonymous contributors shaping the way it looks so that it looks like things you know actually exist. And bam, someone sees a weird spindly golem thing out in the woods and goes, holy crap, I saw it. And people go, you saw the rake, the fake thing that was made on Reddit. Well, you're lying, right? It's brilliant. And it's completely untraceable. right.
What about I think about Redditors?
Well, I know what AI thinks about Redditors. It's hilarious.
Oh.
You guys see those images, like Predators on the...
I don't even touch Reddit. I
touch it.
I didn't know what Reddit was till like 2 years ago.
To be sure.
Or a year ago.
It has its purposes, but it is mostly just psyops at this point. Its
you know
own.
I unironically, I heard about Reddit. It's because of...
Red people.
No, my brother.
Oh, yeah.
That one brother that, yeah.
Who, incidentally fell for a different psyop. But, you know, that's a story for
another
another
story for another day. But those all types of people are on Reddit as well.
Right.
And
So,
he's like, oh, I read it on Reddit. It must be right.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
He read it.
Oh, man. We've gotten into so many side stories this time, yo. But, Bringing it on back. What were we talking about? Oh, okay. You may wonder, how did this freaky thing get the silly name Dogman? It is kind of a lame name. It is a kind of an accurate description, but it's kind of lame. It's not like Hellhound. That sounds kind of cool, right? It's for something this freaky, it's kind of a silly, stupid name. Well, the answer kind of comes into the white Europeans kind of being introduced to it on North American soil, right? To Europeans, the stuff that they were always werewolves to them in Europe and whatnot, right? Where these things have been spotted, they were always werewolves to them, which seems to make sense, but whatever. So, there's. I'm trying to organize everything in my head. If we go to things like the Michigan Dogman, they claim the oldest story is 1887, but I would say there's older ones. Again, we brought up a few tribes in the area that have stories about skinwalkers who get stuck in an in-between shape. This sounds like a classic myth trying to explain a monster that they saw in the woods. Also, probably skinwalkers themselves trying to create a story to explain the weirdness and blah blah blah.
Just like those fake predators.
And camels being introduced to Australia. But so when the white man gets more settled down in the deeper wilds, if you will, and starts interacting with these things on very rare occasions, like these things are very rare. All right, you're not gonna just see them everywhere. Thank God. They started coming up with their own stories and whatnot. They refer to it as the Michigan Dogman. There's also the Beast of Bray Road. A lot of stories about that. That one kind of starts in 1936. I believe it was about a guy who worked at a graveyard or worked near a graveyard and had to walk by it, and he kept seeing a freaky werewolf-looking thing digging amongst the graves, and one time it was like growling at him and seemed to be trying to talk in like Egyptian, what he thought was like Egyptian or Arabic or something, which is a fascinating detail because again, Anubis, right? We bring it back to that and their Nephilim origins. So like even the earliest stories of this in more modern mythos and whatnot has references to this stuff that we talked about in the beginning. Now, it became more popular to the point that a certain radio station made a silly song and they named it the Dogman, and for whatever reason, I suspect probably not by accident due to all that government stuff we were talking about, it became just the name for whatever you give a creature in the woods that looks like a werewolf but looks like it all the time. Dogman. Woo! The Europeans had a much cooler name for the species of man that had dogs for heads. Forget their name. It's not that important. So that was a really abridged version for why these things are called dogmen today. And that's, if you're just being introduced to all this freaky stuff, or maybe you only ever heard of Bigfoot, I introduce it to you now and explain a little bit of it. Be careful with this though, because I think my wife is showing me that she's getting bored of this topic. She's literally.
I am so sorry.
She is mocking me. She's watching like math.
Logarithms.
Algorithms. Logarithms.
I never learned this actually.
She's watching tutorial videos on algorithms. Right? It's not algorithms. What are
logarithms?
Not logarithms. Let me see this.
It says logarithms.
Oh.
I never learned this.
I stand corrected. Logarithms.
My school thought I was so dumb.
Now I'm imagining loggers having rhythm.
No,
yep.
I'm not going there.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm
Logarithm.
not. No.
Dancing with werewolves.
Hell
on logs.
No.
On logs. No. It's like in that classic cartoon where they're doing that little log thing. Like someone's gonna fall in the river and they have to run faster.
No. I dance with nothing.
No. Nine. Back to my logarithms.
I never learned Yes.
No, it's cool. It's just funny.
But
To
when
be-
you've been told you were dumb your entire life and you finally figure something out that they think, okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
Well,
It's too
next
personal.
on this math podcast.
Myth podcast.
Matthew Petty. Woo! Woo! We've been going a while. I think I can actually clean this up, can I?
Manicure and a pedicure.
When did we start?
About an hour ago.
Dude, you guys got an extra long one out of me. We talked about a lot of stuff.
Extra log one up.
I mean, this was if there was ever a day for me
God,
to go
no, it
short.
sounds like you pooping.
Oh my God, more logarithms.
If you're constipated, it stops the rhythm.
I think I might end it there. But
Happy ending.
right. I will end it with like a final warning of careful, because there's a lot of weird, crazy people in this space, and they do weird stuff. Right? They're
Fancy
weird.
werewolves on logs.
Yes, they will worship the werewolves on logs. They're freaky. Some of, it's a lot of stuff. A lot of them will try to tell you that they won't hurt you if you don't hurt them. You should give them stuff and they'll leave you alone. No.
That never happens. Have you tried that? Giving somebody your bike or something, they'll leave you alone? No, they want another bike from you.
But more importantly in this case, because they're demonic in nature, if you give them stuff, you're worshiping them and you're giving them sacrifices.
A mouse a cookie.
Yes, that. But
Okay.
I'm referring specifically to sacrifices.
Oh, okay.
If you give them a sacrifice, you're giving them permission over you and your property.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
No.
Don't do
Don't.
Don't do it.
I'll stop parroting you.
Yes, thank you. But we'll explore this in future stuff. There's a lot of things to talk about. We'll talk about more specific stories as we go. Or specific cryptids and other nonsense we can... it's funny, in NASA, there was this whole story... maybe I should just save that for another podcast. But there's like a...
That's the story!
Come back for that one when we talk about the gargoyle that harassed NASA scientists. Even gargoyles don't think we went to the moon.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Anyway...
That was a horrible joke.
Well, thanks for showing up, people. I'm gonna roll the outro. Say bye, wife.
Bye.
You guys have
Sorry
been
for all
great.
my inappropriateness.
Never apologize.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Sorry.
okay, let me take that out. Within reason.
That's why you're here.
Yes. All right, now I'm gonna stop. Roll outro, freaks. Thanks for watching another episode of the Grizzly Files. New episodes come up every Saturday at 5 p.m., so make sure to come back for that. We also have a Sunday school lessons for young men called The Warrior's Path. New lessons go up every single Sunday at 9:30 in the morning in written form, and then on arcade.com, and then we'll do a live stream going over it the next day on every Monday at 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. depending on when my kids go to bed. We also have another live stream on Fridays, which is our Grizzly Gaming stream. It's a good time to hang out and talk games and all kinds of crazy crap. That one, again, will start at 10 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. depending on when my kids go to bed. We also have a kids book that you guys should check out. It's called David and the Three Bears. It's up on Amazon. It's like if you made a story about King David as a kid when he's attacking bears and things into a fable. Yeah, that's all. Come back for more. We're going to be making more content as we go. So like, subscribe, share. Come back for it all. Can't wait to see you there.